Hello. This demo will walk you through the contract amendment process in the WebGrants system. To get started, first enter your user ID and password. Important to know about contract amendments in WebGrants. Currently in Olga and Symphony, contract amendments come in the form of extension requests and SIP change requests. Extension requests that have been submitted through Olga previously will come through the contract amendment module in WebGrants. Likewise, the PDF document that grantees have filled out to complete a SIP change request, which includes both budget changes and scope changes, will also come in the form of a contract amendment in the WebGrants system. So once you log in to WebGrants, to submit a contract amendment, first locate the grant that you wish to submit a contract amendment for. Click on Grants on the left-hand side of your screen. What you will see are the current listing of grants that your profile is associated with. If you do not see the grant on this list that you would like to submit a contract amendment for, please make sure that your profile is associated with the correct grant. By default, in the WebGrants system, when an applicant and a grantee applies for funding to DRPT, DRPT will award funding, and whoever applied for that funding will automatically be granted as the point of contact for that grant. That individual can add additional points of contact for that grant, but that one individual is the initial person for that grant within the organization. If you cannot figure out who that point of contact is for the grant that you wish to submit a contract amendment for, please reach out to your DRPT program manager and we can let you know who that is. Once your profile has been associated with the correct grant, select that grant to submit a contract amendment by clicking on the appropriate grant. Next, you will need to scroll down under Grant Components and find the Contract Amendments link right here. Click on that. The following screen will show you the history of any contract amendments that have already been submitted. So as you see on this screen, there are 4 contract amendments that have been created for this grant already. One of them has been approved, one of them has been withdrawn, there is one that has been submitted but not approved or denied yet, and then one that is in editing status. For purposes of this demo, we will create a new one. On the right-hand side of the screen, click the Add Amendment button. As mentioned before, there are 3 contract amendment options. Select the appropriate contract amendment type from the drop-down list. We will start with extension request. Select the extension amendments option. Enter a title for your extension amendment. Click the Save Form on the right-hand side of your screen. Next, you will be asked to fill out the extension amendment form. Click on that extension amendment form to complete it. You will need to enter the current end date for this grant. We are going to select October 31st, 2023. Enter a proposed new end date for this grant. So in this example, we will say that we want it extended for 2 months to December 31st. And then type in a justification for your extension. So in this example, we will say that the vehicles for this project have been ordered, but we need more time for the vehicles to be delivered and inspected. Click the Save Form button on the right-hand side of your screen. This is not required, but you do have the option of adding an attachment to support your extension request. Your program manager may want to see documentation that says for this particular extension request example, proof of ordering the vehicle. But for purposes of this demo, we will not attach a document. Once you've completed this form, click the Mark as Complete button on the right-hand side of your screen. You will be taken back to the contract amendment page. Finally, to submit your extension request, click the Submit Amendment button. A prompt will come up on your screen to confirm that you want to submit. Click the red Submit button. Now your contract amendment has been submitted. You will see it now on your list. We will now flip over to a different type of contract amendment, and we will start with a budget amendment. Now type in the title of your budget amendment. Click the Save Form button on the right-hand side of your screen. Like the extension request option, you will also need to submit a budget amendment form. So click on the budget amendment form. The budget amendment form must be completed prior to submission. Here you will need to enter the total current budget of the grant and break it down by the current state funding, the current federal funding, and the current local funding. You will also need to fill out the total new budget request, the new state funding, the new federal funding, and the new local funding. So in this example, we will say that the current grant is for $100,000 with $50,000 state funding, 0% federal funding, and $50,000 local funding. Let's say in this example that costs have unexpectedly increased on this project due to a renegotiated contract with a vendor. And the vendor has provided a quote, and that new quote is $150,000. So you would type $150,000 in the total new budget request. The new state amount, you will need to keep the same percentages as the current grant. And so the current percentages are 50% state, 50% local. So applying that to the new total budget request, $75,000 in state funding, $75,000 in local funding. And then you'll need to include your justification for this request. So we've entered costs have unexpectedly increased on this project due to a renegotiated contract. The vendor quote is attached. So click Save Form on the right-hand side of your screen. Doesn't matter which one. Now you will be able to add that vendor quote at the bottom under supporting documentation. You do not necessarily have to submit supporting documentation, but we do encourage you to do so if not enough justification is provided up top. So in this example, we will select the test order confirmation number. We will write in a description, and we will click Save File. Next, you will have to click the Mark as Complete button on the right-hand side of your screen. Now, your budget amendment is ready for submission. So click the Submit Amendment button on the right-hand side of your screen. A prompt will show up on your screen asking you to confirm the submission. Click the red Submit button. Now your budget amendment has been submitted, and you will see it again on your contract amendments drop-down list. And finally, we will do a scope change amendment. So click the Add Amendment button on the right-hand side of your screen. Select Scope Change Amendment from the drop-down and add a title to your scope change. Click the Save Form button on the right-hand side of your screen. Like the others, you will need to complete the scope change amendment form. So click on that. The scope change amendment form, you will need to fill out 3 fields. You will need to enter the current scope, the new scope of the grant, and then a justification for why you propose to change the scope. You do not need to write a whole lot of detail here unless it is necessary to explain the change in scope. So a common scope change that we process at DRPT is for vehicle replacements. So in this one, we'll say that the initial scope of the grant is it's a vehicle replacements project, and this grantee will be purchasing 4 body on chassis or BOCs. The scope change request, though, will be still vehicle replacements, but 3 body on chassis vehicles and 1 raised roof minivan. Again, you do not need to provide a whole lot of detail in this new scope or current scope. And if you do not know what your current scope is, please refer to the grant contract, which has a very brief scope included in it. Your program manager can also assist you with identifying that. So once you have your current scope entered, your new scope entered, you will need to provide justification for changing the scope. So as I alluded to earlier, BOC costs have unexpectedly increased. We are requesting a scope change to adjust 1 of the BOCs to a raised roof minivan. No additional funding is necessary. So in this example, the grantee elected not to come in for a budget change, but keep the existing budget, but adjust the scope to stay within budget. Once you have completed these 3 fields, click Save Form on the right-hand side of your screen. Not required, but you can also add an attachment to support your scope change request. In this example, we will not include an attachment. Click the Mark as Complete button on the right-hand side of your screen. Now you can submit your scope change request by clicking on the Submit Amendment button on the right-hand side of your screen. Prompt will come up. To confirm that you wish to submit the amendment, click the red Submit button. Now your amendment has been submitted. One other thing to note is that if you have a project that requires multiple amendments, so let's say that both the scope and the budget need to be changed, you will need to submit those individually under the same grant. You can also submit an extension, a budget, and a scope amendment, all three. But again, you will need to submit those individually. They cannot be included in one submission. This concludes the contract amendment demo. As always, if you have any technical challenges or difficulties within the WebGrants system, please feel free to contact your DRPT program manager for assistance. Thank you.